I'm back and I'm so excited because I finally finished the 6th book in my new series, Select Protectors Security Squad. I am so happy this book is done. It took me a really long time to write it because lots of interruptions, lots of travel, holidays, and I had eye surgery. Can you see? Don't they look good? I'm so excited. Anyhow, it's really nice to be able to see again, especially peripherally. So thank you very much to my doctor, to my surgeon, and I'm really happy about it. So that being said, I had a goal of getting to the midway section of my first draft of this new book, Protecting Brianna, before the surgery. Did it. Then after the surgery, I spent a week just kind of hanging out, doing my thing, icing my eyes a lot. And also doing, just resting and listening to podcasts. I found some really fun new podcasts that I'm going to share with you later. Not on this particular video, but I did find some. And I came up with some fun ideas for YouTube videos for my vlog and some other little ideas too. So I just let myself rest and recuperate. Great. Went back to work again, started writing again, was getting close to the finish line when on December 28th, Tonks decided to give me a pretty lethal cat bite. Totally my fault. She's 14. Oh, she's almost 15 years old this summer. I stepped on her in the bathroom in the dark and I must have hurt her really bad. Anyways, it looks like a snake bit me, or it used to. So off to the doctor the next day, tons of interruptions. I was exhausted during the week between, till the 28th until the 1st. Fortunately, the career girl and her guy came over for New Year's Day / Christmas, and we had a lovely, easy, relaxed celebration. And then it was back to work again because the writing still had to happen. In that time period, I was just like, let me just write 100 words. Let me just write for 10 minutes. Let me do something. Because the thing with writing is when you leave it, it's very hard to come back into the story again. You have to slowly work your way back into the story to lay down. It takes a long time to lay down the track again. And any interruption, whether it's, somebody barging in while you're working and you're like going at a good click and you're just writing, or just, life happening and you just can't get to the writing for a while. It's like, woof, it's like starting all over again, just a little bit. So I got back into it, slowly started making my way through it. And I knew I wanted to get this book done before we left for our next trip. So it is done. I'm so happy. So I thought I'd share with you a little bit about the process I go through in developing a story, especially for my new world. And it's born out of another world that I've written, Covert Rescuers, Undercover Shield, Crush. That's where Select Protectors came from. They're born out of Crush. They're a division of Crush. I love the Crush series. It's a fun series. If you guys like really, different kind of out of the box heroines, this is the series for you. It's written in third person and it leads you nicely into Select Protectors. That's if you're into reading sexy romance books. So first of all, let me get into what I do to get ready for my books. I do have a series Bible. I need a series Bible. I need it for Crush. I have 6 books with them and I need it for the current series. I have 2 books in the current series that are set in different areas that I want to bounce into again in the future. But right now my series is set in Fernwood, Georgia, Blue Ridge Mountains area. And the last 4 books have been written for that region. So I'm sort of staying there because it's fun to have my own little town and my own little world, and it's easier to write, and then it writes a little faster because I have to do less research. That being said, I love Protecting Charlotte, which is set in Colorado Springs area. I want to go back and revisit them, maybe with some new Select Protectors springing off of that particular branch of Crush's Select Protectors. But for now, I'm just going to stay in my lane because life is very busy. So first of all, cheers to me, because I just finished another book and I am 63. It was my birthday this week. And you might ask, how does a 63-year-old lady write sexy romances? Guess what? We're not dead yet. We're still here. And that's part of the reason why I want to talk about my writing, because as we romance authors particularly get older, we are also still writing sex scenes if we write them. We are also involving characters in a relationship who are younger than us, significantly younger. And I find that fascinating. Like the first time I wrote about a heroine that was 28 and my daughter was 28 at the same time was a little bit weird. So I actually started aging up my heroines a little bit because, I don't know, felt better. My parents are now like my age. They're like grandparents, okay? Like some of my friends have 4 grandkids coming out their ears. Some of my friends don't have any. Like me, I have a grand kitten. But the truth is we're changing. We've gone through the change, and yet we're still viable, visible women, and we still have stories to tell. I have stories to tell, and what's better than to tell a story about 2 people falling in love and finding each other and discovering home and a safe place to fall? Well, that's not a unique story. That's a universal story that we all want to believe in, and I still want to write those stories and throw in a little suspense because that's fun too. I get to take a lot of my anxieties and anger out in these books. If something bad happens in the world, I can do something bad in my book to make me feel better, and it works for me. First, a sip. I love Prosecco. So first thing I do is I go to my series Bible, and I usually know which couple is queuing up next in the series by about midway through the book. I kind of have an idea of where I'm going. So now that I'm on book 6, this couple was queued up pretty strongly in the book prior. I did an epilogue where the hero, Max, really wants to get together with this very cute bartender, Brianna, who has a mysterious past and a big secret and an ex who is extremely abusive and after her for multiple reasons. So it was a fun book to explore. It was fun themes to explore, and I really, really liked it. So I had my couple. I knew their names. I knew where Max came from. He's from Atlanta. He comes from a law enforcement family. He's had some stupid stuff happen to him with an ex-girlfriend. It's all going to be in the book. If you like these kind of books, you might read it. And Brianna has a past, and she needs a protector. So I knew all of that. I knew of those things, but I needed to come up with names for the villain, which we know at the very beginning. Not always do I know who the villain is, but in this one, I knew who the villain was. It was her ex, and he's an awful, awful, awful human being, and he needs to be behind bars. Her ex is after her. So I figured out his name, and I did a lot of brainstorming with my critique partners and looking up names online, and I wanted to use a name that wouldn't be a good name for a hero because it's getting harder and harder to come up with heroes' names. Oh, so hard. The more books you write, the harder it is to come up with names. So Protecting Brianna started off pretty strong because I had her in the epilogue of Protecting Whitney, which is out, my 5th book. And you can find the link to the latest release there. That was a hard book for me to finish writing. Last year was a hard writing year for me for multiple reasons, but I got it done. So I've queued up the next couple. So that's all ready. I know who the next couple is. Not going to tell you because you have to read the book to find out. So then I have this little notebook. Yes, still old-fashioned in many ways. My daughter designed it for me. This was originally designed for the Crush series. This is a fun notebook. Within the notebook, I have ways to sell tropes. I have notes on universal themes based on Theodora Taylor's Romance Author Mastermind workshop back in 2020, but it's still universal today. And the secrets to selling books to anyone by the same author, Theodora Taylor. I have this with me. I go through it all the time. I'm still not a big bookseller, but that's okay. I still follow the rules a little bit. Then I have like little index cards that I look at. I have different books that I've gleaned over the years to learn my craft, and I kind of figure out where I want to go with the story as far as the tropes. I mean, is this enemies to lovers? Those are always very popular tropes in romance books, whether they're romantic suspense or contemporary or historical or whatever. And then I just kind of sort of go from there. Mine is a woman in peril, forced proximity, bodyguard, trope romance. It's pretty basic. I like to keep it simple these days, and I've learned that the hard way too. Then the next thing I do is I come up with a timeline. So actually, this is the timeline that I came up with for Max and Brianna's story. And I like to keep them really short. So like the weeks that they're together short, so it moves fast. And a day can take many chapters because they're getting to know each other, getting to like each other. They're not just running away from bad people. Then I do like little outlines because I like to fool myself and trick myself into thinking that if I have an outline, that somehow magically it's going to be easier to write the story. Ha ha ha, it never is. Then I have that. And then I go through and I figure out what their names are, and they have first, middle, and last names. So in Protecting Brianna, I have Brianna Faye Clark. That's her name. I know her birthday. I know her horoscope. I know her archetype. She's a spunky kid, working girl. Most of my heroines are spunky kids, although a couple of them are librarians, but they got a little spunk in them. So those kind of things. I know her strengths, I know her weaknesses, and I can sort of build from there. I know a little bit about her family. I know she's got 2 younger brothers, so they're going to be showing up in the future books. I know it because I already planned that very loosely. It's a loose plan. And then I make like little notes about the story where I think it should go. I do the same thing for the hero. His name is Max Elliott Patterson. And then I have the name of my villain, Grant Ellis Duncan. He's a jerk. He's a real jerk. Then I have a few more notes. And then I use this notebook also for revision notes, for things that I have to change based on what my editor says, and then I go through and check them off really quick. I also have a new recurring character in my series called Joshua Landry. Joshua comes in honor of my friend's son who recently passed away of brain cancer. I wanted to put him in my world, not as a primary character because that would be a little weird for me, and maybe for his parents too, but I think Joshua would get a kick out of being the new sheriff in town. So I'm giving him a place in my world, and it makes me happy every time I write his name and show him in a scene. He's a third tertiary, what I call a tertiary character, but he's going to be involved in my Select Protectors world throughout the series from this point on. So I really like him. So I've got all that finished, and then I also have in the back of my little notebook, I have the other timelines throughout the years that I've done. Like I've got Protecting Riley's timeline. That's the third book in the series. I've got Protecting Paige's timeline. That's the second book in the series. It's set in the California area. I've got the rest of Protecting Paige. And then I've got Protecting Lacey. That's the third book in the series. So you see, I put a little effort into figuring out where they're from, how the story's going to unfold. The reason why I use pencil in my timeline is things shift. The story may start going in one direction and then something will happen that changes the direction of the story. So I have to go through and erase what I've already sort of loosely planned or thought that was going to happen. And then the characters say, oh, you're going in another direction. So I have to make those changes. Just for myself, I'm very visual organized, so I like to be able to do that. So the book is done. I'm so happy. I also do character sheets for each one of the characters, not just like in my Scrivener writing program, which I love. I'm very careful about compiling my Scrivener stories because as soon as they came up with iCloud, it just kind of wrecked how it really worked for me. But I love the format, and I'm so mentally attuned to that I have to write that way. So basically, I pop everything I have written by hand into my computer, into my Scrivener program. I have character worksheets in there. I have a romance beat sheet in there that I like to play around with. It's never perfect. It's never great. It's never going to be exactly the way I had planned it, but I do plan it out as best as I can. And I have the other continuing characters. I have a sheet for like what I like to call furniture characters, secondary, tertiary characters who might end up having their own stories or who are continuing characters throughout the story, throughout the storyline, throughout the series. All of my books are beginning to middle to end. They are a closed bow book. Like there is no cliffhanger at the end of any of my books. There's only an introduction into who's going to come up next. Which couple are you going to read about next? What's going to happen with that heroine? How is she going to be in peril? How is she? Those are the questions that you'll be asking probably as you finish my books with the epilogues. And you know who your hero is. It's based on whoever I throw him with. And this next one's going to be fun to write. I always say that after I finish doing a first draft. The book still has work to do. The second step in the process is sending it to my editor, whom I have already informed I will not send it to her until after I come back from my trip, because I don't want to revise on a 2-week holiday. I'm an independently published author who doesn't make a whole ton of money, and I'm not getting paid enough to work on my holidays. And I don't think anybody should have to work on their holidays, although this is more like work is play, play is work. I'm kind of like that. I love writing. I've regained a little bit of my passion for it by kind of separating the whole marketing, you have to find readers stuff from my head, because otherwise I wouldn't do it. It's very hard to get discovered. And that's kind of another reason why I'm doing a little video blog about my current finished book, because authors are about having their books discovered, and there are multiple ways to do it and multiple ways to spend money to do it. I'm on a budget. My husband is now retired. We used to joke around and call the physicist the patron of the arts because he paid for a lot of drinks at reading conferences and at writing conferences. But the truth is, we're not spending our money that way anymore. We're spending our money to enjoy his retirement together. And that means shifting money from a certain bucket over to a different bucket. I never made millions doing this. So again, if I were doing it for the money, I'd have stopped before I even started, because there was no money the first 8 years I was writing and trying to sell them books. And there wasn't a lot after, but that's my story. It's not everybody's story. And I still firmly believe that success can still be right in front of you, as Becca Syme likes to say. So who knows? Maybe my ship will come in before I turn 100. At any rate, I am now 63. I have more years behind me than ahead of me. I still want to write these beautiful books. For me, they're beautiful books because they're about love. They're about people finding each other. They're about forgiveness. They're about figuring out how to overcome your worst flaw, to have that person, to deserve that person. And who doesn't want to have someone to love them? Who doesn't want to attain that kind of true, lifetime partner? It's a beautiful thing. And I'm very fortunate that I have one. And I'm very fortunate that I am able to write about that experience, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So, even if you're an older author like me and you've gone through the change and you're not 30 anymore, you're not 40 anymore, you're 63. Ha 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 ha. That's a weird number to say, but it is true. Just turned 63. But that's okay. I used to be kind of cagey about my age on my professional social media sites, but now I don't care if you know how old I am, because I'm proud that I'm still sitting here writing these stories, spending the time doing it, and making up worlds and enjoying that process. I think it's important to have something to call my own. I always have. I was never one of those, I just want to be a mommy person, or not that there's anything wrong with that, but that would not have satisfied me. Being a grandmother of a cat is perfectly okay with me too. And that comes full circle around to this whole idea I've been having about becoming invisible after you turn 50 when you're a woman. I've talked to several women in my age range who have experienced that firsthand. I didn't really experience that in my early 50s, or maybe not even my late 50s. I don't know if I've experienced it yet. I do find that there are some dismissive kind of behaviors toward me, or maybe like, you're just an old lady, like, what do you have to say? Or you're just being hysterical or whatever. But the truth is, I am consciously working at not being invisible, because I still have stories to share. Not just the stories that I write, but the stories of life, the stories of what it's like to be a woman this age, navigating life, to be relevant, to make a difference, to do what I can, to be a happy, healthy 60-plus person. Which is why I've worked on my health, which is why I've done the transformation challenge. Part of the reason I needed to do that was because I sit in a chair in a room by myself all the time writing books. And guess what? When you're sitting down all the time, you're not exercising, and you could get a little bit wide-hipped. I've made that a priority for myself. I redid my hair. I feel like a new woman, the whole 9 yards. But the reason I did all of those things, and the reason I continue to do the things I love, and the reason I continue to try new things, is because I don't want to become invisible. I want to be seen for who I am as a valuable member of today's society that has a story to tell of myself, of my life, of my journey, and also of the journeys of others. So that's going to be coming up in later videos as well. So yay, I finished a book. I have to do some light editing on it. And then I will send it to my editor after I come back from my vacation. If you're watching this, I hope you are pursuing your bliss. I hope you are finding a way to make your mark on the world, however big or however small. It doesn't matter what you love to do, just do it and enjoy it. You don't owe anybody any explanations for why you're doing it other than to yourself. I hope that this video gives you some inspiration to continue pursuing the things that you love, no matter what age you are, whether you're older than me, younger than me, same age as me. Just go out there and have fun, ladies. That's what we should be doing.